my fellow South Africans, half the time you can swear we live in a movie. And by a movie, I mean this week's latest debacle that happened in court and out of court, which involved the Minister of Labour, Ms. Nkosazana Meth, who you can swear half the time she actually is on meth, and the Democratic Alliance. Now, one of the important things to note is the ridiculous policies that the ANC expects us business owners and managers to put into our business, which involve various quotas such as affirmative action, from having an XYZ number of PPPs in your company to having this target and that target and all sorts. It's utter madness. Now, one thing that we can't forget is the ANC can't even run their own house. There's a term in government that many people don't know called loans to staff. Now, the first time I heard of this term, I thought it had to do with actual loaning money to staff, like government was giving their own staff loans. While actually that was not what it meant. The term actually means the money that is going out to staff that have died, but the system has not picked up that the staff have died, so they continue earning a salary. Now, if the government can't put its own house in order, how do you expect them to tell you how to run your business and to run it successfully? Tell me, which business has Nkosazana Meth ever run? Which company has she headed up as an HR manager? The problem that we have with the radical commies on the left, including the EFF and Mkhonto Wesizwe, is that none of these guys have ever worked in a setting outside of politics. They have never worked in a setting outside of politics, and for them it has only been a yes sir, yes ma'am thing where it's their way or the highway. That is the trick that we are dealing with. And as soon as we know how to deal with this poison chalice, that is the only way we'll get South Africa to move on from where we are. Now, I vehemently, agree with the Democratic Alliance when it comes to their point that they raised in court this week that deals with employment equity and affirmative action. The ANC says that the Democratic Alliance are enemies of transformation. Well, let me tell you, if transformation was really working, unemployment rate would be at its lowest. You know why? Because every effing year, there's just got to be something the ANC sneak up your back as a business owner about how to run your business. This year we've had EWC, we've had Bellable, we've had NHI. Now it's very important to note that all the communists have left the ANC. And you sort of ask yourself, who is Ramaphosa playing to? Which crowd? The communists are out of the ANC. They've gone to the EFF, they've gone to Mkhonto Wesizwe, and they're leaving with the SACP next year when they run for local government elections. Yet Ramaphosa is so hell-bent on introducing Panyaza's, Lesufi's extreme anti-Semitic, crazy policies that have got nothing to do with advancing black people. Let's just get that straight. They've got nothing to do with advancing black people. I will tell you how we can advance black people. Hear it from me. Cut grants. Cut on the grants. The thing is, we've got a government that takes an approach that, oh my gosh, I honestly don't know. They must have rocks in their brains. Literally, quite literally. You look at the stance that they've taken to say that the DA is anti-transformation. It's crazy. The DA probably has more successful business people than the ANC has brains. I mean, and you know, it's not to say the ANC doesn't have brains or lacks a thinking capacity. It's more on the fact, or on the basis rather, that the ANC has got an agenda where they push the uneducated in front and those that are learned, bright, smart, intelligent take a back seat. You've got rogue leaders like Ngcamane making crazy statements that are only hurting the country's economy during this time where we don't have a budget. We are approaching the 21st of May, praying for this budget 3.0. We've heard of 2.0, but now you're listening to 3.0, 3.0, new term. Budget 3.0 stroke actual Serpin will be involved in this budget. That's what's going to be happening. So, ladies and gentlemen, the ANC don't want to see you running effective businesses. The ANC want to tell you how to run your business when they produce state-owned entities that are filled with redundancies, such as PRASA and Transnet. Why must you have one dealing with passenger rail and the other one dealing with freight transport, while both are using the rail system? Just combine the two. Why must you have a CEO for this, a CEO for that? Through you, Chair, I must have a PA, you must have a PA, let's have bodyguards, let's appoint a chief of staff. This is where all the money is going to. The ANC fails to run their own house, and they expect to tell you how to run your house. This is like a grade 1 telling a matriculant how to write maths paper 2. That is literally what the ANC is telling you to do as a business owner. It's high time that we as South Africans not just smell the coffee, because trust me, the coffee beans that actually have been roasting, they're probably close to being burnt. It's high time that we wake up, we stand up together, and also realize that this race baiting is not going to assist South Africans in any way. You know, one of the interesting things, or one of the most fascinating things for me, has to be how capitalist politicians live out a communist lifestyle and the self-proclaimed communists live out a capitalist lifestyle. You have more ANC members of parliament and councils and legislatures living in wards run by the DA. They don't stay in their own wards where they govern. They live in DA-run wards. How pathetic. They take their poisoned, I should not say the word, but they take their poisoned minds and try and think that we will all jump on that same bandwagon. How pathetic. Honestly, pathetic. I've pretty much given up on this country. Really have. But you shouldn't, and others shouldn't, because this country is worth fighting for. But as long as we live on the sidelines, nothing is going to change. We need more people to get into politics, to get their hands dirty, and to make sure that we can minimize the ANC's power. You know, the epitome of hope has to be those crayfish that were in the tank of the Titanic and only realized they were free once the Titanic had sunk. And they thought they were dead before it sunk, but after it sunk and crashed into the iceberg, they realized, oh gosh, we are now free. And that is where South Africa finds itself. So till then, ladies and gentlemen, don't allow the commies to tell you how to run your business, because they've never run a successful business. If you've watched till this part of the video, please, hit the subscribe button, click on the notification bell, and come to our business breakfast on the 20th of June. We'll be having JJ Tabane and the president of the United Independent Movement, Mr. Neil De Beer. They will be sharing their insights and their ideas on what South Africa is going to turn into, possibly in the next year as we approach local government elections. Till then, Shabbat Shalom and good night.